Hey everybody, I'm Eric Holtz, and this is 90 Feet Away. This is a really, really special episode for me. This is a personal one. A lot of the stories that we're going to go through in this podcast are personal to me, as a lot of these guys are guys I've coached or I've worked with over the years, but this one is a little bit different. I have with me a professional pitcher, left-handed pitcher named Dan Wirchansky. And we're going to talk about Danny's incredible journey, where it started, and we're going to keep you on the hook a little bit so that you can really live this with us. And it literally is just today, this afternoon, that Danny signed an affiliated contract that he's going to play. We're going to keep you on the hook for that, though. So help me welcome Dan Wirchansky. Dan, welcome to 90 Feet Away.
Thank you.
You know, as I just said, this is a weird one for me, Danny. I'm going to give people a little bit of background on how we met. And then really I want to hear about, you know, this journey through you. In 2019, Montefiore Medical did a bid on me because I had ripped off my biceps tendon, torn my labrum when I was a younger guy. 2 years later, I signed a contract to go overseas and play baseball. And Montefiore picked that up like many years later. The Yes Network got involved. And in 2019, to nauseam, I was on every Yankee game. And, you know, every 2 or 3 innings, you'd see my story. I'm sitting in my office one day, and Denise said that there's a gentleman on the phone named Gary Wirchansky. Do you know him? I said, I have no idea who that is. Can you find out a little bit more? And she said that he'd like to talk to you about his son. You know, that's kind of how you and I started. So if you want to take over, let's give the audience a little bit of this.
No, yeah, so it's funny. So I'll try to just go through the whole story of like how it led up. So 2019, I graduated from Pace University, ended up getting drafted by the Milwaukee Brewers in the 25th round. And I go down to their spring training site and go through all like the normal physicals and stuff like that. And next thing you know, I go for the MRI, and a couple days later, they're telling me that I'm not signing a contract, and I was confused as to why the head athletic director there wouldn't give me an answer to what was on my MRI that was causing me to go home.
And you weren't having any pain or anything?
No, none at all.
Okay.
So he just told me that to look at the disc, and I told him flat out, I was like, I'm not a doctor, sir. Like, I don't know what I'm looking at. So then he sent me home, packed up my stuff, went home, went to go see Dr. Christopher Ahmad, who's the Yankees team physician, and he looked at my MRI, and he was like, there's nothing wrong. So then a month later, I get a call from the Texas Rangers, and they asked for a copy of the MRI. So I sent it to them, and their doctors looked at it, and they were like, yeah, it checks out. They said they're going to fly me out to Arizona. So I flew out to Surprise, and they were like, once you get down here, you're going to sign. I was like, oh, beautiful. I'm going to affiliate ball where I want to be. Then randomly, they're like, yeah, we're going to do an MRI with you tomorrow at like 7 a.m. So I had to go to the doctor's office, sit in the MRI machine, which broke when I was in it. So then I had to get pulled out of there, redo a whole other MRI, and then they tell me again, this was all a month later, they told me that there's something changed in my MRI from last month. And I was like, I don't know how that's possible. I haven't even picked up a ball since then.
So again, you hadn't had any problems through your season, your senior season at Pace University, like everything was great?
No, yeah, I didn't miss a start. I even came out of the pen sometimes on my like bullpen days and had no issues and pitched the whole year. But yeah, so then they didn't tell me what was wrong. They were like, yeah, well, we could get you an Indy job. We could find you somewhere to play independent ball. And I was like, no, like I'm going to go home. Go home, and I'm just like looking in the mirror like, why is this happening? Like, I feel fine. I don't understand like why this is happening to me. I've been pursuing this my whole life, and I just couldn't figure out why why this is all happening. So then I kind of like was just talking to my dad. I was looking at like all my stuff from college, like all my little plaques and all that stuff, and I was like, I didn't have like any enjoyment looking at it. Like, I just felt like
You felt betrayed. You felt betrayed by baseball. I mean, I had that in my journey as well. The one thing that I loved my entire life turned its back on you. Yeah.
it's like the one thing that I like put all my like effort in, like day and night I was at the field. Like I didn't do nothing. I wasn't a partier in high school. I wasn't the cool kid who went to all this stuff. So I was just like, all my energy was spent on playing baseball. And like at a young age, I never thought of like, I'll play professional baseball. Like, yeah, I told myself I'm going to play in the big leagues, but every kid says that. But like, I didn't really find that until like my sophomore summer going into my junior year when I made the All-Star game in the NECBL and had interest from teams. But like when I was looking back at that stuff, I'm just like, I don't even find joy looking at it. Like, oh, cool, I did this, but like, I don't find it like amusing anymore. So like, I kept talking to my dad, and I get very emotional around my dad because my dad's a softie. So I'm just like asking him like, why me? Like, of all people, why is this happening? And the guy couldn't give me an answer. He just felt terrible. So like, I don't know. Like I was so ready to hang it up. I sent all my imaging from both teams to Dr. Ahmad, Dr. Andrews, and Dr. Olchek, and they were all like, dude, there's nothing here. There's no tear.
So then what was it that I know what it was that sent you to eventually get Tommy John, but why did they think you needed Tommy John?
So no one told me anything. When I finally got word from like Dr. Andrews and all those other doctors, Andrews and Olchek both said there's nothing wrong, there's no tear, like you don't need Tommy John, like we don't need to do that, we're not going to do it. I went to Dr. Ahmad and he's like, listen, there's no tear, you have a calcification in your elbow. And he was like, there's no tear, you don't need surgery, but we'll do the surgery for you. So before even thinking about getting Tommy John, I was fully ready I was completely convinced I'm done playing ball. So I was like talking to my dad, like I want to stay in baseball. I enjoy working with kids, helping the youth, and like developing kids to pursue their dream and their passion of playing baseball. So he obviously saw your thing with Montefiore and stuff like that. So I was visiting a couple of my college friends in the Hamptons. My buddy has a house out there. So my dad called me and was like, hey, I just spoke to this guy, Eric Holtz. He's got a facility in Westchester. Like, you have an interview with him like this day. So I'm driving straight from the Hamptons to here. Like I came here from my buddy's house, sat in your office, and just basically told you the whole story. You asked for my whole thing, and
I mean, I remember that like it was yesterday. I remember the conversation verbatim. I knew nothing about you. You know, truly, I knew nothing about you. I had asked Coach Manning, your college coach, a little bit of background on who you were, what type of human being you were. So I had a little bit of an idea when you got here. But, you know, you walked into my office, and I remember, you know, just kind of looking at you and saying, you know, what can I do for you? What are you doing here? And, you know, go on. I want to hear this out of your mouth because I remember it like it was yesterday.
No, yeah. So I came in, and I was you were like, tell me your story. So I gave you the full rundown with like the whole thing with Milwaukee and Texas and like how I don't want to play anymore. Like I just want to get into coaching. And you were just like, I told you the whole thing with Tommy John. You were like, yeah, well, that's great. Like you're 21 years old. You throw 90 miles an hour. Like, why are you just trying to coach? Like, continue playing.
That's not exactly what I said. What I exactly said was, if I threw 90 from the left side, mother effer, I'd be pitching forever. That's exactly what I said to you.
Yeah, so then after that, you basically were like, listen, like, I want you to work here, but I'm not hiring you unless you get Tommy John. So I said I'll have to think about it. And then I went to go visit some of my buddies at school because I was mostly friends with the kids who were a year younger than me. And I'll never forget the one conversation I had with this girl who played lacrosse at my school. Her name's Lauren Burklow. And I was telling her like the whole thing with like everything that happened. And she was like, look, I've been here. This is my senior year. I haven't played 1 minute of college lacrosse. I've been dealing with injuries for all 3 years, now my 4th year. She goes, and I'm still doing it. So she's like, you already got there. Why not pursue it again? She's like, just get the surgery and rehab and go for it. She's like, there's nothing to lose.
So you go and you get the Tommy John surgery. I just want everybody to know, did I live up to my word? Did I give you a job?
Yes.
I gave you a job. So a lefty pitcher with literally his arm in a sling, is teaching hitters tossing righty. And that went on for a couple months, right?
Yeah, given I had to learn how to toss righty anyway, because in high school, no one wanted to flip the cage around, so I had to learn righty anyway. But I'm sitting there in my brace, and I'm like catching bullpens, and I'm taking the glove off, throwing it back. And I remember there was one kid I was working with. I tried throwing the ball back like 3 times. It wasn't reaching him, and you were like, "Get the fuck out of the cage! I got it." So like, I was kind of nervous. I was like, "Oh my God, it's my first job with him. Like, he's pissed off at me. Like, I'm gonna get fired. Like this and that." But obviously, like,
I definitely wasn't pissed off. I think I was just, looking out for you and your best interest as well. So you get Tommy John, and again, there's no guarantee. Like you got the surgery, but now there's a long road in front of you. You got 12 months and until you can really even think about competing again. What was that like? What was that time like for you?
It was tough because I got surgery in September of 19, and that's like right before COVID hit. So like, I was rehabbing, I was going to PT, and I got cleared to throw like right before COVID hit, where everything shut down. So I was stuck going outside, throwing against like a brick wall or like into a fence at a field. So like, I was out in the cold throwing, and like, for anyone who's dealt with injury, like surgeries and stuff like that, the cold isn't good for your joints.
Thing, yeah.
So like, my elbow just tightened up every time I threw, and I was like freaking out to all my friends.
I can't imagine what you were thinking at that point too. Like, all right, I finally did this, I got this done, and now here we are in the midst of a pandemic. Like, what else is going to happen to me?
I was super confused on like what to do, but I was just like, I got nothing else to do. I'm not working. I'm not going to sit around all day. I was like, let me go do whatever. I was lucky enough that I had someone give me like weights and stuff like that, so I could train and like keep up with like staying strong and like making sure I do everything I need to while I'm at home. So I was definitely fortunate for that.
So that takes you through COVID. I'm not going to say it was over, but by June, July, people are allowed to be out on a baseball field again, right? So where do you go from there? Like, you've been thrown to a brick wall. You didn't even have a throwing partner. What's the next step for you?
So I got cleared to touch the mound in like June. So I had a buddy of mine just catching my bullpens. So I was doing that. I got cleared, and then once the year rolled around, obviously like the season was still going. I had buddies saying, "Hey, like the COVID league happened. Hey guys, like come finish up in the COVID league." And I was like, "Oh no, I don't want to do that." So I actually had more than 12 months to like rehab. So I had total probably 18, because then the winter rolled around again, and Coach Manning at Pace actually got me hooked up with a guy that was coaching in Winnipeg. So I was going to sign there, and then the whole border thing shut down with Canada. So my mom's like, "Absolutely not, you're not going there." So I told the guy, like, "Hey, I'm not going to sign this and that." And then luckily I got a call from TJ Stanton, the manager for the Boulders, and he was just like, "Hey, like..."
But that was for the following year, though.
Yeah.
That was for the following year. So for people that don't know what the COVID League was, what Danny means by the COVID League is 3 teams, local teams in the Frontier League, wanted to play baseball. Baseball was cleared. There was no dugout. There was nothing. Oh no, there was no locker rooms.
Yeah.
You had a dugout, but the guys basically either had to change in the dugout or come dressed.
They were getting changed in the parking lot.
Changed in the parking lot. And basically what the Boulders did is the Boulders had 2 teams, Jackals had 2 teams, and the Miners had 2 teams, which are all within an hour and change of each other. So one team would be home, one team would be away. And they got to play some baseball. They played, I think it was about 40 games or 50 games that summer. The fans were allowed to come, which was kind of neat. You'd get a couple hundred people that would, actually come watch a baseball game because people wanted some normalcy back in their lives. TJ Stanton comes along. Now, for people that don't know, TJ Stanton wasn't yet the coach of the Boulders. He was just joining the organization, and it was that point that TJ reached out to you.
Yeah, so he reached out and was just like, "Hey, like, I know you're a local guy looking to play ball. Like, why not stay home and play?" So I was like, okay, like, I'm not going to get jumped. I knew right away I was not going to jump into affiliate ball, like, right after surgery. Teams are going to want to see me play. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll live close to home. I'll play in the stadium I played in high school, and I'll just go from there. So I get ready for that. We have spring training, and I remember guys were talking about, like, I was like, in my head, I got a contract. I'm like, I'm on the team. I'm good. I had guys telling me, like, oh, just because you have a contract, you don't automatically make the team. So, like, my head starts spinning. And I'm like, oh, my God, like, I'm not going to make the team. I'm not going to make the team. So then every pitcher, including myself, threw so well during spring training. I'm like, oh, my God, like, this is going to be tough. Like, I might not make this team. So the final day of cuts rolls around, and TJ calls me into the office with his assistant, Zim. And they're sitting there. I shut the door. They both sit down, and it was pin quiet. You could hear pins drop on the floor. And I'm just, like, looking back and forth at them. And I'm like, what is going on? In my head, I'm thinking I'm getting released again because that's the only thing that's installed in my head.
Sure.
Zim looks at TJ and was like, can you just fucking tell him already? So TJ starts laughing and was like, you thought you were getting released? And I was just like, yeah, it's been the protocol for like the last like 2 to 3 years. And he goes, no, dude, we just want to let you know you're starting opening night.
So again, and you know, let me just walk people backwards. When Danny talks about being home, Danny, literally, you live 12 minutes
Not even.
from the ballpark. Not even 12 minutes from the ballpark. So guys are coming from all over the world or all over the country for an opportunity to play, and you're playing 7 minutes from your house. Yeah. Okay, you're living at home, parents taking care of you, food's being cooked for you, you're sleeping in your own bed. So like life doesn't suck for your first professional job, COVID or not COVID, like you're doing okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go from thinking you're potentially getting cut to being told you're the opening day starter.
Yes.
Okay, so my question is, or my first question is, have you always been a mental case?
Oh, always.
So since you're a child, you've been an absolute mental case. You couldn't tell how well you threw against everybody else in the dugout, that you thought you were getting cut, you're already being named opening day starter.
Yeah, I deal with anxiety all the time, and like
interesting.
I deal with it, and I'm just so anxious, like always like alert, and I'm just like, okay, that guy's throwing well. He throws 95. I do pretty well. I don't throw 95, so it's like that's gonna open more eyes than I will. Oh, okay, this guy throws 95 and he's got a good curveball. I don't throw 95, but I have a good curveball. It's just like I don't compare myself, but it's just like
you definitely compare yourself. You definitely do.
When I was younger, I definitely compared.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like when I played summer ball.
You're saying you don't, but you're telling me you just did as well. Now, that's interesting for me. So anxiety, has that been something your whole life? And if so, like when did you first recognize that?
I think I recognized it my first year in pro ball. Like I truly recognized it when we were in Trois Rivières and I was pitching and I'm sitting in the dugout and I'm just sitting there like having a panic. Yeah. And my buddy's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I have so much anxiety right now. And it wasn't like, it was like a.
So you never tasted this in high school? You never dealt with this in college?
No.
Ever?
Nope.
Do you think it was because you knew exactly where you stood in college? Were you that much better? You know, and I don't want your high school buddies to say, oh yeah, he's an asshole. But like, were you that much better in high school that you just never worried about that stuff?
I mean, on the mound, like my numbers in high school were really good for a starter. Like I had a sub-1 my senior year, so it was just like I was throwing fastballs down the middle and just flicking in curveballs.
Guys couldn't hit it.
No.
So for the first time in your life, you're in Canada, and you're all of a sudden now, like for the first time, you're dealing with anxiety.
Yeah, I'm sitting in the dugout, and my buddy Ray's like, dude, you need to relax. And like he just comes over and hits me in the chest. And like Ray's not a gentle giant. Like he's swinging at me. So I was like, okay, like I got to calm down.
Okay.
And then I started feeling it more like as like I got all like.
But again, okay, but I go back to you're named opening day starter. So basically they're telling you straight up, you're our number one.
Yeah.
Does the anxiety leave or does it remain with you?
I would say like it partially left, but like when I was like warming up for opening day, like I had the like jitters.
But anxiety and everybody gets jitters,
yeah.
Right? I coached in the Olympics. Mm-hmm. I wasn't playing and I had jitters.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you nervous energy, nervous excitement is nervous energy. It's not anxiety. Mm-hmm. The reason I ask this, Danny, is because to look at you and to watch you, I would never say that that's a kid that deals with any kind of mental anything, never mind anxiety. How else has that impacted you?
Like on the field, are you talking about, or it could be
Anything. I mean, I know. I want you to tell the audience, like specifically flying.
I mean, anxiety-wise, like something off-field was like obviously finding out my brother had to deal with epilepsy. So like one of the nights I was working here, and I literally had to run into Carmine's office and tell him I need someone to cover this lesson. I got to get home. Like my brother just had an episode. So like obviously being anxious through that and like seeing how my family was, like I wasn't home for it, so it kind of killed me for that reason. I'd rather be there like when it happens, so like I could do whatever I can to help. But like my sister was the one who had to deal with it, and like now like she's the one.
But not to downplay that. What your brother goes through on a daily basis is incredible. That's more empathy. That's more feeling for another human being. That's not dealing with your own anxiety. I'm wondering only because I cannot imagine you. Listen, one of the things about me coaching is, and I talk about this a lot, I need to know who you are on the field and off the field. You could be the best guy in a bullpen, but you're going to shit yourself when you get on the field. I don't need you. That has never once been you. Now, again, I didn't see you in high school. I didn't see you in college. I really only saw you boulders and beyond.
Yeah.
Never once would I say that's a kid that's dealing with anxiety. Have you done anything to help yourself through that?
No, like, I mean, the only things, like, I would have buddies who dealt with anxiety. Like, one of my buddies, Willie Rios, who I played with the Boulders for a little bit, and then obviously in winter ball. Like, he would just tell me, like, honestly, dude, like, to control your breathing and just sit here and, like, make sure your fingers touch at the same time. And he's like, it kind of takes your mind away from, like, having, like, anxiety and, like, just having, like, those little episodes. And, like, I'll sit, like, in the car if I'm having, like, an anxiety attack, and I'll just go like this. And then it just naturally goes away.
So kind of learning how to reset yourself.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So you go from, I hope I don't get cut, to I'm the opening day starter, to, and again, I was there that summer, right? I was in and out a lot that summer. How'd that season go for you? First season of actual pro ball.
So I'm very hard on myself, so I didn't think I did that well. Stat-wise, like, ended with, like, a 4 ERA, which obviously I'm not used to. Like, senior year of high school, even college, like, the highest ERA I had in college was, like, a 3, and that was my sophomore year. I wasn't used to, like, walking as many guys as I did. I was having a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, so I was, like, not used to that. So, like, I felt like I put a lot of pressure on myself to impress instead of just be who I am and pitch. So the next year I took the whole off season. I was like, let me revamp everything and just like be myself and find who I am again, instead of trying to people please and trying to make sure like, oh, that's Danny, like he's really good. Instead, I'm just like, let me just do my thing, make sure I know I'm at the best position I am possible to go out there every 5th day.
You were a starter, and I know you're a starter again. You're basically a jackknife. You can do anything that's asked of you. I kind of felt that summer you were pushed a little hard. You know, coming off of Tommy John, your first year back, I say pushed hard. You're a kid that pitches with a tremendous amount of energy, adrenaline, emotion on the field. I remember once or twice TJ, you know, coming out to probably take you out of the game, and you were fighting to stay in the game, which probably wasn't the smartest thing.
Yeah.
You know, coming off of Tommy John, you know, at 105 pitches or 108 pitches, you know, for me, the magic number, you know, because of, you know, bullpen pregame and whatever, it was probably about 90 to 100 pitches. You pushed yourself, and you were pushed based on situations that summer. How'd you feel about that?
So I never want to come out of a game. That's just how I am. I grew up that way. But like I could definitely say like some games I was just like, okay, like this was a little much. Like I remember like one day my elbow like looked like the size of a golf ball, and I had to go throw a bullpen in between a start. And my buddy Tucker was tracking, and he's a lefty, and I was like, I'm really not trying to like throw a legit bullpen. Like I'm not trying to like overdo anything. It's just I want to feel stuff. And he's standing in there. My elbow didn't feel good. and I'm just like floating in curveballs. And then my manager comes over, and I'm like, oh, like great, I gotta actually like rip these now. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like ripping curveballs, and I'm like biting my tongue, and I'm like, I can't say anything because I'm gonna get released. I can't say anything because I'm gonna get released. And then Tucker's like, dude, what's wrong? And I'm like, my elbow's bothering me. Like, it's super swollen, like this and that. And I was like, I don't want to say anything because TJ's gonna send me home. He like grabbed me by the neck and was like, dude, we are not sending you home. He goes, TJ loves you. He's like, you are not going home. If you need a day, just speak to him. He is very open to that. I was like, okay, but I don't want to. So like, I told TJ my arm was bothering me. He was fine. He gave me a day, and then the season went on. And I would say like there were some games, like I could look back on one in Washington where I got blasted for 4 runs in the first inning, and I settled in for 6 or 7. And he comes up to me. I don't know how many pitches I was at. I was probably a little bit over 100. And he was like, I don't know who to go to the bullpen. Like, can you go back out for one more? We took the lead. I go back out for one more, get a 1, 2, 3, and he goes, beautiful. I go 8 innings. I gave up 4 runs, and he's like, we're going to the bullpen. 9th inning comes around. Guy blows the save. They walk off on us, and it's just like, I see why now he kind of, but just like.
Well, I mean, listen, starters are not usually in charge of their own destiny,
yes.
right? I mean, that sucks. You don't get the loss, but you don't get the win. You walk out of the game with the win, and you can only get a no decision at that point. For the people that are wondering out there, TJ Stanton was a pitcher.
Yes.
And Tucker, who you speak of, is Tucker Nathans.
Yes.
And Tucker was a player coach at the Boulders.
My second year.
Your second year. So I think he cared a little bit more than, kind of just a guy tracking at that point. You had proven yourself to them. So that was your second year.
That was my
That was your first year. Okay. So now you go back your second year, kind of, I guess, knowing what to expect a little bit more, right? So the anxiety is gone. Like you pretty much know, you got a spot and what your spot's going to be. Did you do anything different to prepare that year?
Yeah. So I reached out to this guy, Mike Adams. So he owns this facility in South Jersey called Baseball Performance Center. So I was going down to him. I was paying remote for a remote training, but I would stop in like once or twice a month and just like work with him mechanically, just go over pitches and stuff like that. And like he did everything under the sun to help me. And he kept telling me, he's like, dude, I'm going to help you get an affiliate job. Like, we're going to fix you. You're going to throw hard without any effort, and you're going to be a guy who throws strikes. I was like, because I told him, I was like, I went from being a guy who throws strikes, walks nobody, to walking so many guys last year. And he was like, we're fixing that. So I took a lot of like, I bought a tripod purposely to just take video, look at it, send it to him, and wait for him to answer. And then the times I would go down there, I would drive down. I'd leave at like 6 a.m. from my house, drive down to South Jersey, go to him, throw for like an hour, and drive another 3 hours home. Wow. And my mom's like, you're a lunatic for this. My mom would be pissed off because she's like, oh, you're wasting gas, you're wasting Easy Pass. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I was like, I'm paying for it, so it's like I'm paying for my lessons, so I'm going to go down there and do whatever.
So now working with Coach Adams definitely paid off because
yes.
you walked into season 2 and you were the ace, like
yes.
right out of the gates.
Yeah.
Tell me about season 2 with the Boulders.
Season 2 was funny. So like in spring training, I was throwing really well. I was throwing the hardest I've ever thrown, and my manager came up to me randomly. I'm just like changing it at my locker, putting on other stuff to like go do conditioning, and he was just like, hey, stay the course. Like, you look great. Like, people are noticing. Like, you're not going to be here long. So first start rolls around. We play at home against Sussex. I throw really well. I was like 90, 93. Was punching a lot of guys and like really didn't get hit. My second start was, I forget against who, but I threw another really good start. My third start, we had a travel day to Lake Erie. So we took a bus. We got to the stadium at like 4:30 in the morning, and we hopped on the bus to drive to Ohio. Played the exact same day. I get off the bus. I like slept on my arm weird. Obviously, sleeping on the bus isn't ideal. So like I'm like, great. Like, this is not going to go well. I walk like 3. I give up 3 runs. I don't make it out of like the 4th inning. So then I'm like, okay, like that sucked. I brushed it off. I was like, whatever. So then I'm sitting in my hotel room, and this is when like everything starts going well again. I'm sitting there. I'm with my roommate, and TJ texts me and goes, "Hey man, like, what's your dad's number? Like, I want to order pizzas at some time." I'm like, "Dude, we're in Ohio. Why do you want to order pizzas? Like, we're not even close to home." So I was like, "Here, whatever. Like, here's his number." Then he texts me. He calls me and goes, "Dude, like, we're getting complaints. Like, what room are you in? Like, we're getting complaints that you guys are being loud." I'm like, "I'm literally just laying in bed and watching TV. I don't know what you're talking about." I was like, "I'm in room whatever." I get a knock at the door. I'm like, "What is going on?" So I open the door. It's TJ, Tucker, and our team trainer, and they all walk in, and they were like, "Yeah, you're not in trouble. We just want to let you know the Arizona Diamondbacks purchased your contract." So then that all happened. So I'm just like waiting for information from Arizona and all this other stuff, and we're in Chicago at this point.
So you just come off arguably your worst outing, and you're told that you've been signed by the Diamondbacks.
Yeah,
Okay.
I looked at him. I was like, that was probably the worst start. I was like, what were they looking at? And he's like, they didn't care about your numbers there. Like, you've been throwing well. So just waiting for all that information, and like the game's about to start. And TJ's like, "Dude, don't even dress. Like, pack up your stuff and get ready. We're gonna figure this out." So then they had to fly me home. Our bus driver goes, "I'll take you to the airport." I hop on the bus, drives me back to the hotel, grab all my belongings, hop back on the bus. He's weaving in and out of traffic in Chicago, drops me off at the airport. I fly home. I had to text someone from the stadium to let me in to grab all my stuff out of the stadium so I could pack, and I had to go fly out to Arizona the next day.
So, again, this journey that restarts in my office where I almost forced you to get Tommy John surgery. The dream of affiliated ball potentially is happening again.
Yes.
Okay. So you get rushed home. You're on like the first flight to Arizona. You show up at, was it Talking Stick?
Yeah, I go to Talking Stick, and I reached out to like Pope because like obviously Pope's in the organization.
Right.
He was asking him questions, this and that. So I'm in the hotel with like one other guy who got picked up, who ended up actually being on my team later on in Puerto Rico, which we'll get into. But we're sitting there, like we weren't allowed on the actual complex, so we're like outside on the grass, just outside the like facilities, just playing catch, doing whatever, just trying to like kill time before like we actually like sign a contract. So like we're sitting there, and him and a few other guys who were down there, like me, who were Indy ball guys getting signed, get emails about their contracts, and I'm sitting there like refreshing my page like every 2 seconds. I'm like, I don't got anything. So I get back to the hotel room. The guy calls me. He goes, "Hey man, we're gonna do MRI with you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. He goes, "Just be in the lobby at 8. We'll have someone pick you up." And I was just like, here we go again. So then we get picked up, go to the MRI. A few hours later, the guy calls back and goes, "Hey man, like, just letting you know we're not gonna sign you. We don't like what your MRI reads." And I was just like, we're doing this all over again. I was like, how? I got the surgery, like everything got cleaned out, like I rehabbed, I did everything the proper way, like.
Right, I've thrown two years worth of innings.
I was like, why is this happening? So I call you, I call TJ, I called Robbie, and I called Brian, and I was just like, I don't get what's going on. I was like, can we like figure out what's going on? Like I told you, I was like, I'm done with this. Like I don't want to play anymore. Like I got the surgery and I still can't get in. So like I don't know what to do.
For me, it was very frustrating because I know a couple of people, obviously, in the Diamondback organization, and I placed phone calls to find out a little bit more information, and they were very close-lipped about letting it out. They basically just said to me that they didn't like what they saw in the MRI. There was some clouding in the MRI, and there was really nothing they can do. I remember talking to you to even offer them at that point signing a waiver, right? Like just give me an opportunity. Let me show you what I can do,
Yeah.
and if I get hurt, it's on me. Like I don't want, but the Players Association wouldn't allow that.
Yeah.
So you know, this dream that, you know, just every time you feel like we're right there and the carrot is not that far out dangling in front of me, it gets like just pulled out from under your feet.
Yep.
So you fly back to Rockland, and you're pissed off, as we all are. And I remember talking to your dad, and you know, it sucked. It was heart wrenching. I remember at that point calling the Phillies. and I had the Phillies come watch you, and the Phillies liked you a lot, and they set your name up the ranks a little bit, and it kind of died there. Again, with no true reason as to why. I know the rules changed where every contract had to be purchased. I didn't know if they wanted to spend $15,000 on an Indy ball guy. So again, now we're back in Rockland, and you got like half the season left. Take me through the last half of that season.
No, yeah. So right when I get back, like before I even got back, I told TJ, like, I don't know if I even wanted to play anymore. And then after speaking to you on the phone, I texted him. I said, "Do you still have room for a left-handed pitcher?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, we have a spot open." So he was just busting my balls too. But I call Ahmad. I was like, "Hey, like, can you look at this MRI? Have the disc with me." He said I set an appointment with him, but I had to start before that with Rockland. So then we play at Sussex. I go 6 scoreless, and the next day I go see Ahmad, and he's cranking my arm in 20 different directions. He's like, "Does this hurt? Does this hurt? Does this hurt?" And I'm like, "No." He looks at the MRI, and he's just like, "Dude, you literally just have ossification, which is just like little like loose bodies of like bone spurs, or whatever." He's like, "There's no tear." He goes, "If this was the Yankees, like, you're cleared, you're signing." So I was like, "So why am I getting shot down?" And he just couldn't give me an answer. He felt horrible. But like the rest of the season, like I threw really well. I started for most of it, and then I ended up going out of the bullpen. I was actually an all-star in the league, and then we had a shot. We made the wild card game. We had a run at the end of the season where we won like 12 straight games.
Right.
And I felt like I was a big factor with that because I was coming out of the bullpen like 7th, 8th, 9th inning. So like I was kind of just like a back-end reliever at that point. And yeah, the season ended, and like we lost the wild card game.
So again, I just want to keep going back to the same guy like 2 years prior that was worried about making the team, who thought he was getting released in the office, who was made the number one guy. Fast forward another year, and you start the year as the number one starter, but then on your bullpen days, you're coming in to throw an inning here and there to put out a fire. Oh, and by the way, I made the all-star team. Things are going pretty well for you right now.
Yeah.
Now what happens in the offseason?
So even before the offseason, like I was talking to like Robbie and my buddy Willie, and I was like, "What are you guys' thoughts on me playing like winter ball?" And Robbie's like, "Dude, yeah." So I get a message one day from a guy in Puerto Rico who's like, "Hey man, I would love for you to play winter ball for us, this and that." So I screenshotted it and sent it to Robbie, and he goes, "Do not answer him." Robbie reaches out to the GM of his team, and I'm literally in the shower, my phone goes off, and I had to turn off the water and answer the phone. It was that guy, and he was like, "Hey, Robbie sent me all this video of you, this and that, like would love for you to like be a bullpen arm for us." And I was like, "Yeah, like I'll go hang out with 2 of my buddies that I was just with, and I'll play winter ball." So I got to go to Puerto Rico.
So I go from, again, I'm never playing again, to I come back, I have a pretty good season, to an all-star. I'm now going to play winter ball in Puerto Rico. Like, yeah, it doesn't suck. I'm living on the, like, not on the beach, but I get to be in the middle of the winter while my family's suffering in the snow. I get to go chill in Puerto Rico. Oh, and by the way, I only throw an inning here or there.
Yeah.
Life is not too bad for Dan Wirchansky.
Yeah, no. So yeah, I got to go out to Puerto Rico, and I was kind of like flipping back and forth from like coming out of the pen to like starting. And, like we had a doubleheader one game, and we didn't have any starters for the second game. And they were like, "Hey, we heard you started in the summer. Like, you cool opening the game?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." Ended up going like 4 scoreless, and then like they had me start a little bit. So I had like 3 or 4 starts after that. Did pretty well. My last start, I gave up 2 homers in the first, and that was the last time I started, thank God. But yeah, that winter was probably the best thing that's ever happened. Like, I don't know.
So again, and now like we're getting into the fun part. For me, this is really where a lot of the fun stuff starts. So you do really well in Puerto Rico, and you come back, and you know, I mean, obviously you're offered another spot at Rockland. They're probably going to give you more money now because you've established yourself a little bit. What happens now?
So I got back from like the Caribbean series and stuff like that, and like I was trying to figure out like what I was gonna do. So I spoke to you, and you were like, "I have a buddy in the Atlantic League, and you put my name out to him, and he called me and was just like, yeah, we'll offer like him a spot, like this and that.
So that buddy was a good buddy of mine named Billy Horn, and Billy was head coach of the Charleston Dirty Birds. For people that don't know the Atlantic League, the only way I can put the Atlantic League, for people that don't understand, it would be quadruple A baseball, the equivalent of the Cape Cod League for college, the best of the best of independent baseball. Big leaguers that have just been released play in the Atlantic League, hoping to get signed to go back to the big leagues from the Atlantic League. And Danny Wirchansky, who 2.5 years before this is thinking about quitting baseball, now lands a job in the Atlantic League. Now, I remember talking to Billy, and I never said anything to Billy, but I remember the first weekend was a triple header, a 3-game series against the Staten Island Ferry Hawks, and the Ferry Hawks kind of new in the Atlantic League. And I reached out to Billy and I said, "Hey, Bill, can you do me a favor? Let me know when Wirchansky's throwing that weekend. I'd like to come watch a game." And I remember Billy's answer was, "Holtzy, I got stallions in my rotation." He goes, "I'm not saying Danny's not good, but he's a pony right now. We got to bring him along slowly." For the audience, all Danny did at the highest level of independent ball was lead the entire league in ERA, which is just unheard of. The kid who nobody gave a chance, the kid who nobody gave a shot to for years is mowing down ex-big leaguers and led the Atlantic League in ERA, not for a week, not for a month, for the entire season. Let's talk about that experience for you, Danny.
It was fun. I mean, before like obviously going into like the actual season, when I found out it was like Charleston Dirty Birds, I'm like, shit, I'm going to Charleston, South Carolina. This is gonna be cool. So then sign the contract, whatever. Billy sends me all the information, like, yeah, like you're driving down. I was like, yeah, I'm driving down to South Carolina. He sends me it. It says West Virginia. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, whatever, I can't turn back now. I signed it. So then I drive down there, whatever. We have spring training. Ended up playing 2 games of banana ball. And then, yeah, we hopped into the season.
I heard you dance pretty well.
No,
The Savannah Bananas already reached out to ask me about your availability.
That will not happen. But no, so we had to do banana ball for 2 games. In the first game, I wasn't playing because I was starting game 2. So they like had us out for like rehearsals to do dances, and you have me and my buddy Bobby Bradley, who's in the big leagues with the Indians, with Guardians now. And like everyone's doing like high steps and like kicks and all this stuff, and me and Bobby are just sitting back there like looking at everyone like, what is going on? Like, I'm not doing this. So my start comes, my buddy Zach Bridges is catching me. His brother Noah's actually on the Bananas, and their rules are a little different, and they have their own umpire, so he kind of gives calls to them. So I had a 3-2 count. I throw a fastball middle, and the guy calls it ball 4, and I'm looking at him like, are you fucking serious? So their rule is like, once ball 4 happens, they get to run around the bases as long as they can until everyone on the team touches the ball.
Sure.
So my team didn't want to do it like how the Bananas did it. Everyone on the Bananas, when there's a ball 4, they all pile up at second base. Our team's just going third base to left field to center to right, all around, and the guys like getting the third or home. So also another thing is like if we don't score and they score in the bottom half, it's considered a walk-off and the inning ends. So the guy walked. I knew no one was going to do it. I'm walking off the mound. My buddy Bridges is mic'd up because like obviously the whole thing with his brother and stuff. And you just hear me going, I fucking hate banana ball, freaking out. Like I'm trying to get ready for a fucking season. So it's just like they're doing all this stuff. Like I want to pitch. Like ball 4 means stay on first base and steal fucking second, or like let the guy hit you. So I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. Like you're just wasting my time. Like my one buddy, Mikey York, goes out for his inning the game before me, throws 1 pitch, home run, we walk off the field.
Wow.
So it's just like we're trying to get ready for like our actual season, but like they're putting on a show for the people of Charleston.
So you get done with banana ball,
Yeah.
and obviously it sounds like you have a tremendous future with the Savannah Bananas. But now we get into the Atlantic League. I mean, Where you at? Where you at mentally? Like, are you back to anxiety, Danny? Am I a little bit worried? What am I thinking?
I would say like a little bit of anxiety. Like again, I felt like I had to prove myself again because going from playing 2 years with the Boulders, going into my second year there, it was like, okay, like I established who I am. I could go be myself. Here, this league's better. I'm also with people I don't know. I have to prove myself to this manager. I got my name thrown out by you to like get me there. Like I got to put in a good word for you. So it's just like, okay, like go out there and kill it. Like you can't do anything else. Like, so my first start, like we were at Southern Maryland and I'm playing against my buddy Daryl and I'm just like yanking curveballs, overthrowing fastballs. And I'm like, what the heck? Like this lineup's not that good. Like I faced better lineups before and I'm just like getting into like 2-2 counts, 3-2 counts. And I'm like, gotta be kidding me. Like why? So then I think I gave up like 3 or 4 runs in like 4 innings. And in the Atlantic League, they did like, if your starter doesn't get to the 5th inning, you automatically lose your DH. But like they didn't do that until probably like after a month. So like we were okay. Like I went 4 innings and like we didn't lose our DH. But I'm just like, I'm giving up 4 runs my first game. Like I'm gonna get sent home early. Like I can't do this anymore. Like what the hell? Like I could go pitch in the Frontier League and be fine. And like I kind of just like I just had to calm down and like I spoke to you, I spoke to my dad, and it was just like, you need to relax, like stop worrying about that stuff. It's one start. And like I spoke to my buddy Daryl, who's the pitching coach for Southern Maryland, but also player. And he was just like telling me all this stuff he saw. And he's like, dude, like you're doing this, like you got to relax, you're doing this, like that. And he's like, you're going to be fine. Just don't overthink.
So after you first start, you have basically like a 9 ERA.
Oh, yeah. I was freaking out.
So you got a 9 ERA after game 1 and scared shit, you're going home.
Yeah.
All right. So how were you able to make an adjustment and fix it?
Kind of just, honestly, just throwing bullpens and telling myself to relax and, like, again, not worry about what I can't control. Like, I was so worried about, like, like, my ERA is going to be a 9. Like, no team's going to want to pick up a guy with a 9 ERA. So I was just like, who cares? Like, that's out the window. I can only control the rest of my starts. Let's worry about this next one coming up. Throw that start, worry about the next one. It was just kind of just like mentally prepare myself into small increments instead of like looking at like the whole big picture.
So after 4 innings, what's your next start like?
Honestly, I don't even remember. I think it was again, I came in relief at High Point before that start, but then after it, I think it was against like Lexington at home, and I completely just like diced them. I went like I think 5 innings, no runs, and then it was just like.
And the difference in the Atlantic League is there's like probably 7 or 8 guys that have your back from the bullpen. You're not as worried about giving
Correct.
up a lead, and
we had some studs out of the bullpen. Like we had 2 guys throwing high 90s. One of them recently hit 100. It's just like we have guys who could throw. And then before that, we had our pitching coach, Joe Testa, who was a player coach. He was in the bullpen for us to start, and then he ended up going to become a starter. And he would come in, and it was just like, oh, thank God, like Joe's coming in, like going to be nice and easy. Like I know he's going to get out of this. So like it's nice knowing I have guys who could actually pitch and like compete and like know how to get out of stuff versus like, all right,
you having to throw 3 extra innings.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but Billy was great too. Billy's like, I want you to know like you're going to work out of your own jam. It's your numbers. So like, I want you to do that. But he was also good where it was like, okay, you're at a high pitch count. I'm not going to have you try to get out of a jam. We're going to get
I've heard great things about Billy. I heard Billy's really a player's coach.
Yes.
Easy to talk to.
Yes.
And really, no ego. He's there to really just help his players. So again, the season continues. The season's a little longer, I think, the Atlantic League than the Frontier League. How are you able to keep this level of pitching up now, not only through your competing, but now they got some scouting on you, right?
Yeah.
This isn't Little League. Like, guys aren't just showing up and see a lefty on the mound. How are you able to keep that up the whole season against that level of hitters?
I think just like I'm not one to follow like scouting reports and stuff like that. Like they'll have like spreadsheets and be like, okay, like for instance, like
how to attack.
Yeah, like me and my buddy Derek are both lefties. We're both similar, but like he throws different stuff than I do. His ball comes out different than mine. It's like I'm not going to look at like a scouting report that he did. I want to see scouting reports that I did. So it's like I'm not going to look at like the start he just had versus them and just try to go off that. Like I'm going to pitch to my strengths, and if I notice they have weaknesses that I could attack, that's what I'm going to go with.
So you look at a video, like what? How do you prepare? How do you prepare for a start? And what do you and how do you feel? And do you use analytics? How do you use them?
I honestly don't use analytics. I kind of watch their batting practice, honestly, and just like watch swings and see like bat path and stuff like that.
So this has been such a sore point for me for years. I truly believe that analytics are outstanding for certain things. I want to see horizontal or vertical movement on my fastball. I want to see rotations on my off speed. I want to see depth on my changeup and my sinker. But unless Danny Wirchansky has faced me 30 times, and I have a sample of head-to-head competition 30 times, what good is analytics?
Yeah, I don't like it at all, honestly.
You have to throw what you're comfortable with, and me as a hitter, I have to look to attack something that I want. So having somebody tell you how to attack someone based on another pitcher, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that's why again, like I would look at like guys' swing path. Like I could bring this back to college. I would watch guys hitting in BP, and like obviously Northeast baseball, it's super cold in the beginning. And I had Manning yelling at me. He's like, dude, get the fuck inside. It's freezing out here. You're pitching today. I'm like, I want to see their swing so I know how to pitch. And he's like, no, get inside. And he's like, I'll give you the sheets. And like he'll put the sheets in my locker, and they stay in the same spot.
Even in BP, you're looking for tendencies, right? That was my biggest thing. Coaching ex-big leaguers, right, in the Olympics, we're game planning against Korea, the Dominican Republic, Mexico, the U.S. My guys had never faced Tanaka, Ali Perez, nor had my pitchers faced Todd Frazier. So how do I have anything on this guy? Like, it's frustrated me. So I think so much of the game has gone to numbers analytics and nerds running this game rather than, like you said, as a pitcher, an old school mentality, let me go see what I can learn about their swing, and that's how I'm going to fucking attack them today. It may be different. I may see a team next week and it may totally be different. You're telling me that took you through the season, just doing that same thing that you did in college. I think that's badass.
Yeah, like I had this one guy, he had like a little bit of time in the big leagues. His name was Ronnie Dawson, lefty hitter. And I probably broke his bat 6 times. Like he literally came up to me one day and goes, I have enough firewood for you if you want to start a fire. Like came up to me, gave me a hug, and he like really good dude. Actually signed a contract in Japan or Korea.
That's awesome.
But like I remember I was throwing fastballs in, and he was just getting cut off, completely sawed off. And I was talking to my buddy Dwight, who played in the big leagues with the Blue Jays and the Orioles for a little bit. And I was like, I'm going to break his bat again. He goes, dude, I'm telling you, throw him a curveball first pitch here. And I said, no, dude, he's not hitting it. Fastball in, he cheats to it, hits it over the wall. I look at him in center field, and he screams, I told you. So I'm just like, maybe I should listen to a big leaguer here and there.
You know what? Sometimes you go bear hunting, and sometimes the bear hunts you. I mean, that's the part of the game that kind of evens out. He won't remember those 6 broken bats because he's got one dinger off you. You finish this incredible season, right, in the Atlantic League, and are phone calls coming at all? No. So we're going back to Puerto Rico. Right? It's the best option you got. Puerto Rico is happy to have you back. I think even a little bump in pay this winter. But the team wasn't the same.
Yeah, so like we won it the last year, and then he tried returning the entire team and adding obviously a few pieces, but like we were also missing like the Palacios brothers, who were a huge like contributor to our championship, and we had a couple other guys who like weren't there. So it was like we were missing some big pieces, but like we had a majority of our team, and it was just like we couldn't put the pieces together. Like we wouldn't hit and we would pitch. We wouldn't pitch and we would hit, and it's just like we couldn't put 2 and 2 together until like the last like 8 games of the season. By the time that, it was too late. Yeah.
So what's kind of really interesting to me, and I'm assuming that the audience doesn't know this either, is your contract was sold.
Yeah.
Toward the end of the season, right? The Dominican Republic, Escondido purchased your contract from the Indios, and now you end up in the Dominican Republic.
Yes.
Holy shit. Talk about it.
So it's kind of funny. So our season ended, and what they do in Puerto Rico is like they'll do like a draft for like the teams who made the playoffs. So go from the 1st seed down to the 4th seed. They get two picks from the teams who got eliminated. And my GM was like, "Hey, like you're probably gonna get picked, like this and that." He goes, "If not, the team in DR wants you." So I'm sitting there. I'm like, "Okay, like hopefully, like I'm gonna be in Puerto Rico still." I had my girlfriend out in Puerto Rico. We were in San Juan. And I heard rumors that the team in San Juan was going to pick me up and play for them. So then I find out I wasn't picked, and my GM was like, "Hey, like, we're flying you out to the Dominican tomorrow." I'm like, no, like, I can't. Like, I have a set thing here till January 2nd. Can we fly out then? He was like, "Yeah." So me and 2 of my teammates ended up going to the capital. We were in Santo Domingo, and we fly out, and we had trouble at the airport. So whoever booked our flights said we had visas. So we were like, the guy's like, "Oh, you have a visa?" I'm like, "No." And my girlfriend's like, "Are you stupid? You listed you had a visa?" I'm like, "I didn't book the flight." So like we're trying to like hassle around, like they're boarding the plane, like they're getting ready to take off, and they're like, "Well, you have to buy a flight home before you could go on this flight, like because there's listed that you have visas." And I was like, "Oh my god!" So I'm freaking out trying to like get a flight booked to come home, and then I'll just cancel it when I get there. So we get it in time. We have our little flight, like 30 minutes. We land in Santo Domingo. We get picked up, go to the hotel, and then we have a game that's at our home field, but we're the away team because we shared a field with Lycée. And it was by far the craziest baseball I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, I mean, I want you to talk about that in a minute, but so the Dominican Republic, you show up here, right? You just had like a pretty cool experience in Puerto Rico. You show up in the Dominican Republic, and give the audience an idea of who's on your team and who you're facing game 1.
Yeah, so on my team, we had like Starling Marte in right field, Junior Lake, who was in the big leagues with the Cubs for a little bit, and left. We had Jerry's Familia as our closer, Alex Colome as our setup man. Trying to think. Other than that, we had like Emilio Bonifacio on the other team.
These are all big leaguers.
Yeah.
And who were you playing against? Do you remember the first game you showed up?
Yeah, it was Tigres del Liceo. We were at home. We shared the field with them, but they were the home team. And like Licey is like the Dominicans team. Like in the capital, it's their team. Like they won the Caribbean Series last year. So it's like I got there just in the round robin playoff. So the place is mobbed. Like you see blue all over the stadium and like little patches of red, and it was insane. Like we're sitting there, like I didn't expect myself to be in the game the first night, which I wasn't. Thank God, I was exhausted, but there was at least 3 fights in the crowd. Like people just throwing haymakers at each other.
People are nuts. I mean, they love their baseball down there, and I mean that's all of the South America. I mean they love baseball. Who were some of the guys you faced?
My dad, Robinson Cano.
So he says his dad. This is just outstanding. This is when I tell you people, I was crying. Danny has faced Robinson Cano 3 times. Robinson Cano is a name that's been around baseball for a very long time. He was an all-star second baseman with the New York Yankees. Most recently with the Mets. So Danny's faced Robinson 3 times, and Robinson is 3 for 3 with 3 doubles against Danny, and Danny sends me a screenshot of Robinson holding Danny's head going, "Here's my daddy." I literally lost my mind. I'm hysterical. I want to make T-shirts. But this is what Danny's facing. Was Tatis was down there as well?
Tatis, so his team was just unreal. So they had Miguel Sano at first, Cano at second, Tatis was DHing, Jerickson Profar was in right, Solarte was at third, Johnny Cueto was their ace, Natali Feliz was out of their bullpen.
And here's this white kid from Westchester.
Yeah.
Right? In the Dominican Republic. All right, so I did well in Puerto Rico. Now it's like a whole different culture. I mean, the Dominican baseball is this crazy. But thank God you did know one person.
Oh, Brian Moran.
Brian Moran, right? Westchester's own Brian Moran, brother to Colin Moran. Brian's a professional pitcher as well, who's currently AAA with the Atlanta Braves. So at least you had somebody down there kind of walk you through the way things worked and stuff. How crazy was it down there?
It was insane. Baseball down there means something to them. It's not a game, it's a culture. So it's everyone's bought in, fans are yelling at you, even just warming up, they're saying stuff, and I don't speak the language, so it just goes right over my head.
But they're talking shit to you.
Oh, of course, yeah. And then we had kids when we were at one of the away games. We were at Cano's place at the Estrellas, and they know I'm not Dominican, so they're just screaming Americano, Americano, bola, and they're asking for a ball, and I'm just I don't have one, but playing against those guys was insane. Other teams had Marcelo Ozuna, Jose Siri. Yeah.
So again, I keep going back to this, and I want to say I apologize to the audience, but I don't apologize, not one bit. This kid with anxiety 3 years ago, who was scared shit he wasn't making a Frontier League team, is now competing against the best baseball players on this freaking planet and shoving. Okay, so I finished the season in Dominican Republic. I'm Danny Wirchansky. I'm pinching myself. Life is pretty good right now. I think that's it. I'm home. You're with me. You're doing lessons here. You're home for about a week. You get a phone call.
Yeah, so I got a call to go represent Puerto Rico in the Caribbean Series that was held in Miami. And then I had to fly out, 2 days later back to Puerto Rico, go to practices, and then we flew out to Miami a week later, I believe.
So you fly to Miami, you're at Lone Depot, which is the home of the Miami Marlins. That's where the World Baseball Classic was held last year. Great venue, a lot of fun, right? Even for an indoor stadium,
Yes.
It's really, it plays really natural, right?
Yep.
It's an awesome place. So again, I don't mean to name drop, but your manager was kind of a decent baseball player, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah.
Your manager was Yadi Molina,
Yep.
who just retired after a Hall of Fame career. He's the skipper of the Puerto Rican team, and he does something that I admired a lot. Your first game, he gets you in the game.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
We had the first game of the Caribbean Series. It was a 10:30 game against Nicaragua, and I come in, clean inning. First guy swings first pitch, fly out to left. Next guy I end up walking. Next guy I jam him, pops up to the catcher. I get pulled. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm not thinking anything of it. My buddy comes in, gets a guy to ground out, end of the inning, whatever. So after the game, we won that game. After the game, he comes up to me in the locker room and goes, hey, I just want to let you know, I didn't take you out because you were throwing bad. He goes, I took you out because I just wanted you to get your feet wet, and we're going to use you tomorrow. So I was like, I'm not thinking anything of it, dude. I said, whatever you got to do to help us win, fine. I said, I want to win. We get paid if we win. So he's like, that's the attitude I want to hear. So then we play against Mexico the next night. Back and forth game. We end up, our third baseman, who was in the World Series this year with the Diamondbacks, Emmanuel Rivera, hits a two-run single, and we get into a jam later in the game. I think it's 6th, 7th inning. They have first and second, 2 outs, and their 3-hitter comes up, who is my teammate in Charleston, Bobby Bradley, played in the big leagues, like I said earlier. So I'm rushing in the pen, getting hot. They're like, is he good? I said, yeah, I'm good, whatever. Go into the game. I run out there. It's all the infielders and Yadi goes, all right, I want you to attack him like there's 2 strikes. every pitch 2 strikes. He goes, I don't care if you walk the next 2 guys, we have another lefty in the hole. He goes, I don't care. So I'm looking at my catcher like, did he really just say that? And I'm just like, all right, whatever. In my head, I'm like, this guy's playing chess and I'm playing checkers. Like, this guy is just one step ahead of me. So first pitch curveball, bounce it. Next pitch curveball, outside for a ball. I'm like, I got to give in to him a little bit. Throwing a changeup for a strike, he took it. Yank a fastball, make it 3-1. Elevate a heater, he fouls it off, makes it 3-2. And my catcher's calling curveball, and I'm like, dude, I'm not throwing a curveball. I know I'm not throwing a fastball, but I'm not throwing a curveball. I keep pulling off, I keep yanking it. Like, let me throw something I have confidence in. Wiggles changeup, I said, yeah. Throw left on left changeup, swings right over it. The whole place starts going crazy. I black out.
You did as well, yeah.
Oh, I blacked out.
I
don't even, like,
yeah.
My dad, my girlfriend, my sister were like, what were you saying off the mound? I said, I have no idea. I said, I have no idea. Like, we're rewatching the video and trying to make up the words, and we can't. I said, I couldn't tell you what I said.
So Puerto Rico got off to a really good start in the Caribbean World Series, and then kind of fell off a little bit, right? You guys lost a couple sloppy games, whatever. But I think you guys played 6 games.
Yeah, so we played 6 games.
And you were in 4 of them.
We were realistic.
No, you personally.
Oh, I was in 5 of the 6.
You were in 5 of the 6. So again, this kid, I go back to dealing with anxiety. I'm going to get released from the friggin' Rockland Boulders, is throwing in 5 out of 6 of your games with a Hall of Fame manager showing what kind of confidence he has in you. How'd that make you feel?
Definitely gives you a lot of confidence. But going back to the whole anxious tick, so when I'm in the bullpen and I'm getting hot, knowing I'm getting ready to go in the game, like I'll start like coughing and like just like kind of like losing breath a little bit. And like my bullpen coach in Puerto Rico, his name's Josue Matos. He'll always be like, "Dude, you all right? What the hell's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "It's just my anxious tick." But there was one where I'm sitting there. I forget what game it was. I think it was the Venezuela game. And I'm sitting there and like I like spit up like a baby. I'm like, "What the hell?" Like, this has never happened when I have anxiety, but like I was like, whatever. So I start kicking dirt, making sure like no one's looking. I was like, I didn't just throw up. So like I start throwing again. I go into the game, whatever. But back to the whole thing, like it just so much confidence going out there when you know a Hall of Fame catcher has that much trust in you. Because every situation I came into was kind of like a jam situation or like a close game scenario.
He probably had more trust in you than you had in you. You know what I mean? And what's crazy about that for me is, you know, something I talk about a lot of the time with younger players is I can't believe in you unless you believe in yourself, right?
Yep.
And here's this guy who arguably top 3 catchers of all time, right? Defensively, for sure.
Yes, yeah.
For sure. Just meets you and feels this way about you. To me, that's got to be the most incredible feeling, man. Yeah. Especially, you know, being a Blanquito, right? You're not Puerto Rican. You're a white kid from Westchester. I mean, from Rockland. That's got to be incredible.
No, yeah, it definitely made you feel good. But I think the best thing I saw with Yachty was my buddy Lincoln Hensman, who was just recently signed by the Marlins, comes into a game, like jam scenario, goes multiples after that. Next day on the bus, Yachty brings him a bottle of Patron. Goes, here you go. Way to pitch last night. You're down today.
I mean, that's a class act. I mean, Yachty's a class act. All right, so Danny has this like, you know, kind of dream of a year, right? We start out in Atlantic League for the Dirty Birds. Leads to Puerto Rico, which leads to the Dominican. I'm home for a week. I go back to Puerto Rico. I'm in Miami, and now you're home. Mm-hmm. And you and I are kind of like banging our heads together. What do we do? Where are we going? You know, what's the game plan and how do we make this happen? And, you know, I started off this broadcast by saying we are leading up to something exciting, and I don't want to get emotional. I'm going to try not to get emotional. But there are people that are put into your life for a certain reason. Sometimes we don't know what that reason is. If nothing else, because to be honest with you, I hated doing that whole Montefiore thing. But if the Montefiore thing is what put you in my life and what put me in your life, then I'm forever grateful because, I have another son, nephew, for the rest of my life. For the last week or 10 days, my emotions have been going crazy because there's been some excitement with you and talking about the potential again, having an opportunity to play, or at least have a shot to show what you can do in affiliated ball. And about 2 hours before this broadcast, you signed a professional contract to go play for the Seattle Mariners. And within a week's time, you're going to be leaving out to Arizona. And I don't know that I have the diction and the vocabulary to describe how I feel, other than a proud uncle, a proud coach, a proud dad type of guy. I feel the same way that I would feel if they were my own children. The year for Dan Wirchansky has been a special year. It's been special for several reasons. But again, here we are in February 24, and you go back to 2019 when you came in here kind of begging for a bullshit job. Does it feel real to you yet, man?
No.
Doesn't feel real. Within 1 week, you're going to be heading out to Arizona with a shot to show the Seattle Mariners organization what you're all about. This kid that level to level, country to country, has done his job, and not only done it extremely well, incredibly well, now has an opportunity to fight for a big league spot. Holy shit, dude, how's this get any better?
Doesn't.
How you feeling right now?
Still hasn't really hit me yet. Obviously, actually signing the contract for the first time and not, seeing it so far away is really nice, but it's not going to hit me until, I'm down there and, actually on the field and competing against other guys and stuff like that, but I'm excited.
Will you be able to go at some point back into that room with your father and look at all of your old stuff now?
Probably.
And have you fallen back in love with baseball?
I definitely have. For me, the longest time, it's always been in my head, get to affiliate ball, get to the big leagues, and the past year, I just haven't really thought about it. I've kind of put it to the back of my mind and just enjoy playing, find where you're happy playing baseball and make as much money as you can playing baseball and let the rest fall into place. And it's, I guess you could say, finally starting to fall into place.
So when we talk to kids, and we do regularly, right, every day, we talk about overcoming adversity, having resilience. Knock me down 9 times, I'm getting up 10.
Mm-hmm.
What message do you give children? From a guy who wanted to quit 5 years ago, what message do you have for younger guys that they want to be Danny Wirchansky? They want to be just like Danny Wirchansky. They want to have an opportunity to fight to the end. What do you say to them?
Don't let anyone tell you that you can't, no matter how hard it is. Because at the end of the day, if you really want it, you'll go get it.
I'm going to work my ass off, and I'm going to use every opportunity and turn over every rock, and then let them tell me no. You've never gotten the opportunity for them to tell you no. So, Danny, I'm going to tell you this. I love you like you're my own. I thank you for spending a little time with us today on 90 Feet Away. I can't say I'm going to be your biggest fan because I know Mom and Dad are just full of pride and love, but you have an entire community of people here in Westchester who love Coach Danny. not Danny Wirchansky. You're Coach Danny to these kids. These kids are going to be pulling for you. Your entire Game On 13 family is going to be pulling for you. And I got to tell you, man, it's probably going to be 200 to 300 Westchester residents that just became Seattle Mariner fans overnight. I wish you the best. I can't wait to just watch what's next for you, because you've never disappointed me, man. You've never disappointed in any way, shape, or form. And no matter what, you'll be able to tell your children and your grandchildren that it was worth fighting for. And anything out there that is worth fighting for is going to take a lot of hard work and aggravation. But at the end of this, one day you're going to walk away and say, I fucking did this, man. Congrats, my man.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today on 90 Feet Away. Man, this was different for me. This was a little bit more emotional. Dan Wirchansky is just a special kid to me. I've had really, the honor of just spending some time with him and kind of being just on the outside periphery of this kid's journey over the last 5 years. I truly tell you, he's a special young man. He's matured a lot in the 5 years that I've known him. No matter what happens, he has made us all just incredibly proud of never giving up. And where people might feel a little bit weird about going here and a new team and a new town and a new country, this kid just goes there and does his job and shoves. For the kids out there listening to this, man, never give up. If somebody tells you you can't do something, man, you figure out a way to work your ass off. There's another opportunity out there waiting for you. Thank you, and we'll see you next time on 90 Feet Away.